Back in 1965, Ford introduced a new concept in off-road vehicles. It was a compact, two-door, four-wheel drive, go anywhere, off-roader. It was simple, the mechanics were simple. It would carry 4 people in relative comfort, and it began a cult almost, but one which was never as popular as the Jeep. That car ran until the mid-70s, and then Ford applied the Bronco name to a large SUV. The term SUV hadn't even been invented yet, but it was a big body-on-frame machine, and by this time it was utilising all manner of V8. In the mid-80s, Ford then debuted some smaller trucks, a Ranger and a small SUV based on it called the Bronco 2. I had one many years ago. It had steel that you could practically read through, it was so thin. Rusted terribly. But people mourned the loss of the Bronco nameplate. It was replaced by the Explorer when SUV finally became a thing. So Ford had been peddling the rumour mill for quite a few years that the Bronco would ultimately return. And they confirmed this in 2018. And in 2020, it began production. There was basically 2 versions of it, which they didn't previously announce. The first one was the Bronco itself, the full-sized Bronco, which I'm hoping to do a video on in the not too distant future. But then, as a surprise to everybody, they also introduced this, which is the Bronco Sport. And what this is essentially a rebodied Ford Escape crossover, or Cougar as it's known in Europe. And they've rebodied it to look like the big Bronco. And it has sold extraordinarily well. It is one of Ford's, if not Ford's biggest seller, probably other than the Explorer and the F-150. You see them everywhere. And I wanted to see what the big deal was about. It comes in 4 trim levels, does this Bronco Sport. The base model, which comes with a 3-cylinder 1.5 litre EcoBoost engine producing about 180 horsepower. That engine is also in the Big Bend model, which this one is. Then the Outer Banks model, which also uses that engine. And then finally the range topping Badlands model, or Badass as I call it, which is a 4-cylinder 2-litre EcoBoost engine producing about 240 horsepower. And obviously those trims are much more luxuriously appointed than this. This one doesn't even have front fog lights. But I'm not interested in that. I just want to know what the deal is with these. So I've borrowed one from Fred Martin Ford in Austintown, and I want to thank Jennifer and Martin for all their help with this, in organising this. For me to have a look around today, and then we're going to take it for a drive. I'm Darren Walker, and this is Auto Atlantica. So right from the get-go, just by looking at the fascia of this thing, the huge Bronco letters on the grille tell you exactly what it is. So if you see this in your rear view mirror, you know what's about to hit you. It's flanked either side by these LED strips and the LED surround on the headlight there, very much like the big Bronco. And like I say, this one does not have front fog lights, they are blanked out. But what I really like about this trim are these alloy wheels that are made to look like steel wheels. Just check those out. They are fantastic. Probably my favorite wheel trim of them all. It really does add to that sort of rugged appearance. with it being a Big Ben model. And by the way, these names are named after various national parks in the United States. And the Bronco graphics, it really does look the business, even in this more basic trim. Now, being a more basic trim, there are no LED tail lights. They are all incandescent, although it does have a LED surround at the back there. This one has a tow bar. Towing capacity on these is about £2,000 for the 1.5 and £2,200 for the 2 litre. But you can see with these design details what Ford have done in really aping the larger model. You've got these nice basic but rugged looking door handles just in matte black plastic. Same with the mirrors as well. There's no, on this particular one, there is no sort of side repeaters. The rugged looks do extend to the interior. This switchgear, I think, is rather nice, and it just feels rather solid. I really like this switchgear for the lights there. It's very clear and functional. Likewise with the center console, you've got a rotary dial for the shifter. So you've got plenty of room to put things in here. There's a lot of room. You've got, this one doesn't have a phone charger, but you can see the pad there for the more upmarket models that do. The controls are very basic, but really well designed ergonomically, and it all matches. And then you've got this sort of small tablet for the infotainment system up front there. The steering wheel is decent. It feels fairly chunky, but it's not leather wrapped. So the space in the back is no different to an Escape or Cougar. You've got the same amount of rear legroom, which is fairly decent, but the headroom is phenomenal because this car sits so tall and it's a boxy shape. There's an inordinate amount of headroom in this thing. So the tailgate itself is electronically locked and unlocked as part of the central locking, and this particular one has this tonneau cover, which is hard plastic, and even has this built-in measuring tape as well. So if you're a contractor, you don't even have to get your measuring tape out. That's something that Ram does with their trucks. It's got this really nice rugged boot bed here, so it looks like it will tolerate quite a bit of abuse. But the overall space, you can see the cargo room in this is quite something because of that completely square shape at the rear. Now the nice thing is, rather like with the big Bronco with this, which is where it does differ from the Escape, is the fact that you can open the door or just the rear glass, which is very much a nod to the old model. So you can just open the rear glass like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. That sort of sets it apart. That's probably one reason why this car sells so well, because that's a nice feature to have. The glass itself is quite narrow though, so if you are going to use this, then you make sure want to make sure that you put some folders or something through it instead of anything that's particularly bulky. Nice feature though. So when you get in the car, the gauges automatically fire into life, and they are simple but effective. So we'll start the car, and there's no needle sweep, which is a surprise, but you've got a display in the middle there, which there's only 3 miles to empty, and then you've got a standard set of gauges either side of it, which is nice, which gives it that more traditional look. So inside, the seats, they're decent. I like the fabric. It's very hard wearing fabric, this is, which is exactly what you need if you are, living in a rural environment. You've got this quite wide sort of like center console here. This tray in here isn't too wide. I'd prefer this to be a little bit wider actually. But we turn the engine on. I do like this. You've got this extra, apart from all this storage that you've got down here, you've got this extra pad here, which is ideal for actually holding a phone, for instance, that you can put there. And all the controls are very, very easy. The seats are manually adjusted in this, completely manual, both sides. I like these stalks. They remind me of the Opel stalks, like on the Astra E back in the 80s. They're sort of like sit up and beg. I do like those a lot. But the controls are all easy to hand, and then you've got a telescopic steering wheel which comes out, but I don't seem to be able to raise it up and down. Yeah, there we go. There's the up and down. So we'll put that there. That's better. Now I can see all the instruments, and yeah, they all fit between the steering wheel rather nicely. The vents are nice too. They're easy to sort of get at and easily adjustable, and they've got that nice sort of like off-roadish look. The old Bronco feel extends to every single part of this car.
Now, I do want to apologise for the lack of forward planning here. This was all very rushed. I didn't know what car we were going to take out at the time until we actually started shooting it, and I just like picked this one. And I'm glad I did, because it is really interesting. However, I didn't get any external camera shots of the car moving, so I apologise for that. And obviously, with this being a brand new car, Jennifer, the concierge, had to escort me in the car since there was only 3 miles of range left in it, because the car just didn't have any petrol in it. It was all sort of like very rushed, and we just had to sort of take it very quickly around the block. But it did give me an opportunity to sample the car and see what it was like on a fairly rough back road here. And I have to say, I can see why these cars are so popular. You've got a real nice commanding ride height and driving position here. The car also handles really nice, like a regular crossover. And in addition, it soaks up the bumps really nicely too. Now, all Bronco Sports have a select shift 8-speed automatic gearbox, and it is extremely smooth. It feels just like a CVT. I didn't even notice the transmission shifting at all. That said, we were only doing sort of 30 miles an hour on this back road, so it wasn't really a good test of that gearbox at all. But I was impressed with it anyway. I would have liked to have felt this 1.5 litre 3-cylinder at more highway speeds. I'd be curious to see what it was like, but certainly low down it was very smooth, and certainly enough torque to get us underway. So we're just coming back into the dealership here, and these Bronco Raptors that they got had sort of caught my eye. Maybe I can take one of those out next time. Who knows? We'll see. But at some point in the future, I'm really pleased to have this relationship with Marty and Jennifer at Fred Martin Ford, and I'm extremely grateful for their cooperation.
So while we're here, let's take a look at this Bronco Sport Heritage Edition. It's designed to look like the 1966 original with the Robin's Egg blue paintwork, light blue paintwork, and the white grille with the red lettering on it. It's a homage to that, and as an extra homage, they've built 1,966 of them. I think it's an acquired taste. Starts at about 35,000. This one's got some options on it, like electric seats. Heated seats are an option, and I think those front fog lights may be an option, I'm not sure, but this one weighs in at about 38,000. So a similar price to what the other one had that we drove. This is actually based on the Badlands edition, in actual fact. So this is a second from the top Outer Banks edition. That's what all these are, I believe, here. These also use the 1.5. I don't want to talk about transmissions because I never even referred to that while we were driving. These have what's called a GOAT transmission, which is an acronym which stands for goes over any terrain. Just a Ford thing. And it's a system that's very similar to Jeep's all-wheel drive system, where you've got different modes for different kinds of terrain, whether it be snow or rocks or what have you. Now, the Badlands edition gets 2 extra modes, rather like a Trailhawk does in the Jeep model ranges. However, unlike the Trailhawk, there is no secondary low ratio transfer case. It's just got the one transfer case in all Broncos.
So that's it for the Ford Bronco Sport. I apologise this video's a bit cobbled together. I'll do better in future with the Fred Martin vehicles. But anyway, that's it from me. I'm Darren, and this is Auto Atlantica.